They are finally back, ladies and gentlemen. Lord Explosion Murder himself and the Hand Crusher, Bakugo and Todoroki, are reintroduced back into the story, and that final panel brought a smile to my face. Just getting to see the angry scowl on Bakugo as he's just staring and looking at Todoroki, who just has his stone cold expression. It's nice to see that these characters haven't really changed since they've kind of been absent from this current arc. But this morning when I saw that, I immediately tweeted out just how happy I was to see these characters once again. Definitely brought a smile to my face. So how is it going, everybody? We're talking about My Hero Academia, manga chapter 162, entitled One Who Is Worthy. Now, I really enjoyed the hype surrounding the content of this chapter because what we're building up to right now with whatever arc that is coming up after this Eri rescue arc, I'm really excited for, because not only did I really enjoy the Deku and Mirio conversation that they had in this chapter, even though I expected some aspects of it, I just loved getting to see the positivity exuding from Mirio. He is definitely one of the best characters to get introduced into My Hero Academia. Love his character. But there is that villain that has been hyped up for so long that we really haven't gotten to see much of. We saw him back in chapter 57 and then during the Red Riot flashback in chapter 144. But we have a name for this character, Giganto-Machia. I don't even know if that is actually the proper way to pronounce that name, but we have a name now to this rock gigantic villain, and I am hyped for whatever his quirk is, whatever his abilities may be. I am really excited to see what this character is going to do now that he's being introduced into the story. But right off the bat, I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room with this week's latest chapter, because odds are it felt very short to everyone reading it, and that was due to the fact that it was 14 pages. I know that sucks it was 14 pages because on average we have about 18 to 19 pages for every My Hero Academia chapter, but this could just be due to Horikoshi's sickness or his illness that he had maybe like a few weeks back. But hopefully this isn't, becoming a regular thing. Hopefully next week's chapter with 163 gets bumped up to 18 to 19 pages. But like I've been stating, even though this chapter was 14 pages, the content we got I really enjoyed, and it has me hyped for what is to come with whatever future arc we are about to transition into. So I'm really excited to talk about the content that we got in this week's latest chapter. There are really only 3 sections to really talk about: the Gran Torino section, the Deku and Mirio conversation, and then of course that last section I'll just touch on yet again with Todoroki and Bakugo getting reintroduced into the story. So let's talk about the reintroduction of this rock villain, Giganto-Machia, that got reintroduced in this chapter. We finally got to see a full drawing of his figure, and I'm really excited for what this character is going to be doing. But before that, Gran Torino and All Might's cop friend were basically chasing Kuroguri through the woods. And this makes a lot of sense as to why Gran Torino wasn't really participating in the overhaul raid operation, because going back to the beginning of that arc, Gran Torino said he had another mission to attend to. So him and All Might's cop friend were basically chasing Kuroguri, and this also explains why Kuroguri wasn't on the highway operation with the League of Villains. But right as Kuroguri is about to get captured by Gran Torino, this is where we get the reintroduction of this villain that has been hyped up for so long, because Kuroguri ends up monologuing and let Gran Torino know that All For One has had this all planned out. And All For One knew that if one day he got captured and couldn't be there for Kuroguri or Tomura Shigaraki, they could rely on this person if they ever felt uneasy. And then this is when we come to see Giganto-Machia, or Giganto-Machia, however it is pronounced. This character right here has been hyped up for such a long time. His first introduction was in chapter 57. We only had one panel to actually see him, and then we didn't see him again until the Red Riot flashback in chapter 144. And Gran Torino knew him because he is the one that ended up saying his name. So there is some history between Gran Torino and Giganto-Machia, but also he is a faithful servant to All For One. But this raises a lot of questions for me. How long has Giganto-Machia been a faithful servant for All For One? Has he been around since the beginning of All For One's uprising in Japan? Is he like one of the original subordinates of All For One? What is his quirk? What is his power? Does he have multiple powers? Because if he's a faithful servant of All For One, odds are All For One has granted him some excess quirks to actually use at his disposal, because this guy is a monster. He's got some rock formations on his body, and I am really excited to see what his power is, what his quirk or quirks are, and what he's going to be doing for this future arc we're about to transition to. But his name I find to be very, very fascinating because odds are Giganto-Machia has a reference somewhere to what his power slash quirk is going to be, but also his name is a reference to Greek mythology and this war of giants between giants and the Olympian gods. So we already get a hint that he's going to be a very powerful character, considering that he is a faithful servant of All for One. But if his power is going to be like immeasurable strength, what will be the limit to his power? Because he is a big character, he is intimidating, and I am really curious to see what his power is going to be. But also, he has ties to Ashido and Kirishima, considering that both of these characters ran into him during the Red Riot flashback in chapter 144. So, will they be involved? I would be really happy if Ashido is involved. I would love to see more character development coming from her. But also, there was also this hint at this hero called Spinner that could also be involved with Giganto-Machia. So this little section of this chapter has me very intrigued, and I'm really curious to see where we're going to go moving forward with this upcoming arc and Giganto-Machia. So we transition over to the hospital, leaving the unknown situation that is about to transpire between Giganto and Gran Torino, the fight that's about to break out. We don't know what's going to happen there, but we move over to the hospital, and this is where we have the section and the conversation between Deku and Mirio. But before we do that, our heroes of Recovery Girl, Aizawa, and Deku are watching the news, and they find out what transpired on the highway, what the League of Villains did to the cops, and what Shigaraki did to Overhaul. So Deku finds out, and he is completely shocked at what Shigaraki did to Overhaul, because we don't know if Overhaul is dead or alive. He is most likely alive, but he is going to be missing a hand or two, and he needs a hand for the rest of his life. So that section right there lets us know that all of our heroes are well aware of the fact of what the League of Villains is up to and what they ended up doing, but also we find out that Eri still has not waken up in the hospital. But then we transfer over to the Deku and Mirio conversation, and all I gotta say about Mirio's character is that he is fantastic. One of my newest favorite characters of My Hero Academia. I absolutely love his character and the positivity he had in this section, because as Deku is walking to his room, he is most likely expecting him to be sad, gloomy, very negative, but as soon as he enters his room, he is doing air bicycle kicks and he is training in his hospital bed, and he has a smile on his face. I absolutely love Mirio Togata, one of the best new characters of MHA, and I believe everyone most likely loves his character. And the popularity poll that is mentioned at the ending of this chapter, I am hoping that Mirio is at least in the top 10, because he is a fantastic character. But moving back into the conversation, the positivity exuding from Mirio and the fact that he wants to push forward even though he is quirkless and he just recently lost his mentor, Sir Night-Eye, he is pushing forward for his dream to become a hero, and he's not going to let this deter him from actually pushing and achieving that goal. And that is absolutely amazing just to read within this chapter. But as you can see him talking to Deku, you can tell that Deku just feels so bad for Mirio, where the conversation ends up going to the point where he ends up hypothetically, to Mirio's point of view, asking him, if I am willing to give you my quirk, would you accept it? But of course we kind of knew that this is where Deku was going to go, because ever since he found out that Mirio Togata was going to be the successor of All Might and One for All, he's been doubtful about whether or not he was actually the right choice for One for All. And as soon as he hypothetically gives this scenario to Mirio, Mirio immediately denies it. And I absolutely love this, and this raises his character that much higher, because he's looking at Deku and he's saying, well, if this was just a hypothetical scenario, I wouldn't want you to go through what I'm going through right now. I would not want to take away your quirk, that way you're in the same situation I'm in right now. I am willing to push forward, I don't care what it takes, and I even talked to Aizawa, and what he told me is if they are able to get Eri to control her quirk in some distant future, she can revert me back to a previous state where I had my quirk. And even if Eri is unable to learn how to control her quirk, we will look for alternate solutions to this problem. You have nothing to worry about right now, Deku. I have Sir Night-Eye's foresight on my side. Would you just smile already? That right there, the amount of positivity coming from Mirio Togata, a person that just lost his quirk and just saw the passing of his mentor, Sir Night-Eye, this right here just exudes a hero. Mirio Togata is a true hero, but what I find actually very curious about is the fact that All Might is outside the door listening to all this, and he probably already heard Deku giving up One for All to someone else, letting them know about the secret. So I'm wondering if we're also going to get another conversation between All Might and Deku talking about the secrecy of One for All, because odds are that is going to be a topic and conversation that has to be brought up again, because Deku finding out that he wasn't the first person in mind to become a successor is going to put kind of some doubts into Deku's mind, which we already knew was going to happen. So I'm really curious about how all that is going to transpire as we move forward into the future chapters. But the last section to just talk about is the introduction, yet again, of Bakugo and Todoroki. This panel is drawn so well, and just getting to hear that dialogue, that bratty nature coming from Bakugo, just the angry dialogue of him saying, "Shut your damn mouth already," and him actually saying, "Walk behind me, you ass." The facial expressions on both of these characters I find hilarious. I'm so glad we are seeing these characters again, because odds are it's been about 30 chapters about. It's been a long time, because go back to the beginning of the arc whenever they were going through their courses to actually retake the provisional license exam yet again. So odds are from this, we might be following these characters in next chapter. We have no idea, but I'm right now very hyped, even though this chapter was very, very short. So Lord Explosion Murder and the Hand Crusher back into the story once again. I'm super excited about that, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts, theories, and opinions about this chapter and where you can see the story and the future arc we're about to be going into. Will we actually see more of Giganto-Machia, and what is his power or quirk? What are some of your guys' theories on what his power might be? And are you guys excited as I am for the reintroduction of Bakugo and Todoroki at the ending of this chapter? Let me know down in the comments below, guys. I love you guys so much, and I am really looking forward to the next chapter, 163 of My Hero Academia. So until then, and until the next chapter, I'll talk with you guys then. And remember, guys, Plus Ultra.